Pure Nacho, and welcome to this evening's live stream where we're going to be deep diving into those important final Premier League pre-season games, because we've had a busy pre-season, but realistically the ones that happened yesterday and today are really the ones that we need to focus on, those starting 11s, those players that perform well, and maybe those differentials that need to be in our teams. There's some huge talking points in today's video. We need to talk about Liverpool. Is it Mo Salah? Is it Diogo Jota? Is it Quansah that we need to target for our teams? Of course, the return of João Pedro at Brighton. Is he the go-to third forward in the team? And of course, Arsenal with those goals in today's game from a certain Gabriel and Saliba that we do need to address. So of course, if you're new around here, make sure you are subscribed to the channel, and if you tune into the current live stream, make sure you do drop a like just to show me that you are enjoying it. Of course, outside of that, what we also need to touch base on is three particular drafts. We're going to be looking at one which is going to be a Haaland draft, one that's going to be a Salah draft, and one that's going to be a Haaland and Salah draft. I think, like a lot of people right now, it isn't a case of you have to go for Mo Salah or you have to go for Erling Haaland or both. I think we all know that there are three different types of drafts that we're probably sat there right now with. And again, if you're in a position right now where you think you know exactly which premium you're going to go with, let me know, because I'll be really interested to know the logic behind it, because I think it is really close between the two. And I can't sit here right now and say to you, I am definitely going for Erling Haaland, because that could change, to be honest with you, as we get closer to that Friday deadline, which I cannot believe is next week. It has come round so quickly. So we're going to be looking at all of those things in today's video, and hopefully get through a load of questions as well that you guys are hopefully going to put in the chat for me to answer, because that is the whole point of these evening live streams. So first and foremost, make sure you do drop a like. And as I said, I really want to deep dive into these preseason games that maybe you did miss, because at the end of the day, there were quite a lot that happened. So first up, we're going to go through this Liverpool game. They played two games, one against Sevilla, one against, I believe it was Las Palmas. So basically, it looks like the first game against Sevilla could be that game week 1 starting 11. So let's get that up on your screens right now. You can see Liverpool won 4-1 against Sevilla. If you're a Liverpool fan, let me know in the comments section. And of course, if you were there at the game, let me know how they got on. It'd be really good to see a fan's perspective on Liverpool, because I can't lie, I watch a lot of football, but I can't watch every team, every game, unfortunately. But Arne Slot definitely has this Liverpool team scoring goals nonetheless. And I really do think coming into this season, we all want a piece of Liverpool. It's just which one is the choice to go for. So as you can see, 4-1, decent scoreline for Liverpool. Jota getting on the score sheet. And if you haven't seen that Diogo Jota goal, it's incredible. Kind of Van Persie-esque. It's got the lot. It is ridiculous talent. It's another reminder to us that when Diogo Jota plays, he scores goals. Simple as that. His underlying numbers have always been fantastic at Liverpool. And I really do hope Arne Slot finds a place in the team for him. And that's what hopefully we're going to come to a conclusion to in this stream. Diaz, 2 goals as well. This is a guy who hasn't been spoken about at all in FPL, because end of the day, he hasn't been available for Liverpool. So this is a really interesting one. I don't think necessarily we're going to go there early doors with the other options available to us. But if you are brave enough to go for Luis Diaz, that could be a really interesting shout. And can't lie to you, the other goal scorer haven't really heard of, and we know he's not going to be a fantasy consideration. So this was the team lineup on your screens here. So Alisson in goal, back 4. We're going to come on to that in a minute, player specific. Szoboszlai, McAllister, Gravenberch, Salah, Jota, and Diaz in that front 3. Now, first and foremost, you're probably looking at this thing to yourself, oh my God, Tsimikas started, 5 million defender into this Liverpool defence. I do want to say that Robertson did play in the later game against Las Palmas. Didn't go off injured from what I know. So there is a most likely chance that Tsimikas is going to get rotated. I think Tsimikas probably plays game week 1, but I think you only probably get 1 game out of him. And then after that, he is going to be a big rotation risk. So I would be a little bit cautious about if you are taking a punt on Tsimikas. So the big question mark from the defenders is going to be Quansah. 4.5 million, a piece of that Liverpool defence. Do we go there? So let me know your thoughts in the comment section. For me, I think we've seen enough with Arne Slot and his philosophy to know that his centre-backs need to be ball-playing defenders. And while Konate is a fantastic defender, very aggressive, brilliant at defending wide areas, and that's always helpful when you've got someone like a Trent who's inverted into midfield. If that counter happens, Konate is amazing at basically just covering this entire pitch here. But I think Arne Slot doesn't really care about that. He's looking for ball progression, and I think at 4.5 million, Quansah is a brilliant investment with those opening games. Ipswich away, followed by Brentford at home, Man United away. And I'm not going to sit here and say to you that 4.5 million, you have to get Quansah into your team, because let's be real, I don't think Liverpool necessarily are guaranteed clean sheets in those opening games. But I do like it if you need to get a piece at Liverpool defence and you don't really want to spend the big bucks on Trent. Now, you can see there, Trent picking up an assist in the game, picked up some lovely positions. And while obviously we've had cover from Bradley at right back, let's be real, Trent is going to be starting for Liverpool. I am 90% sure of it. And I really do expect someone like Trent Alexander-Arnold to be really, really unbelievable in this Liverpool team. Is he going to deliver like we saw under Jurgen Klopp? We don't know the answer to that. But what I do like is, if you're in a position right now where you're going without Erling Haaland, you're going to find it very easy to afford Trent Alexander-Arnold. And straight away, if you're not going about Haaland and you've got that cash around, I think you go straight for Trent. With those opening fixtures, with the attacking potential that he offers, for me, that is a little bit of a no-brainer if you're avoiding Erling Haaland. Now, in terms of the midfielders, Szoboszlai picked up an assist. I think he's a good option at 6.5, but he's not my favourite 6.5 million option. The front three, Mo Salah, no returns. A lot of people are going to be panicking right now, thinking to themselves he isn't worth it at 12.5 million. And let's be real, he hasn't been in free scoring spirit during pre-season. We haven't seen him in racking up the goals. So it's not necessarily the biggest convincing thing for us if we're going to be paying 12.5, but I don't read too much into that right now. I still think Mo Salah is a phenomenal option. I think his game time is going to be fantastic. But when we're seeing people like Diogo Jota playing the full game, the full 90 minutes as the number 9 and he's 7.5 million, I think it's very, very difficult right now to completely ignore Diogo Jota in our teams. We know if we get consistent minutes from him, then he's always been a phenomenal FPL option. And for me, I think I'm willing to take the punt in game week 1, knowing that I can go for Diogo Jota, who's 5 million cheaper than Mo Salah, who's playing as the number 9. Yes, could he get rotated with Darwin Núñez? Absolutely. But do I foresee it in the opening few game weeks? And I personally think the answer is no. I think Arne Slot likes Diogo Jota. He's had the most minutes from him in pre-season in comparison to the alternatives. And for me, with those opening games, especially if you're wildcard in early doors, I'd be tempted to go without Mo Salah and have Diogo Jota, or go for the 2. Diaz, I think that's one up for debate right now. I don't love going there just because he scored 2 goals, but if you want to go differential, you can. So that's a little bit of a coverage on Liverpool. To conclude, Quansah, I think, will start the opening games at 4.5. Do I love it? No, because I don't fully back Liverpool from a defensive perspective. But if you really want to piece that defence, Quansah is the way to go if you cannot afford Trent Alexander-Arnold. In terms of the midfielders, Szoboszlai is good at 6.5, but I still prefer the likes of Nkunku. And right now, I'm not saying this just because he scored and got an assist. I do think Diogo Jota in the opening 3 game weeks is as good FPL value as Mo Salah. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Next up, we got to move over to Arsenal to get through some of these games. So next up, we had Arsenal versus Lyon, where they won 2-0. And look at those goal scorers. They have carried on from where they left off last season. Rice with the assists, Saliba and Gabriel with the goals. Whatever Gabriel can do, Saliba can do better. And it really does emphasise why having a piece in that Arsenal defence isn't just clean sheets. But for these centre-backs and the way that Arsenal operate with their set pieces, you're not guaranteed goals, but you definitely are. Of all the Premier League teams, for those centre-backs, you probably are investing in the best attacking centre-backs in the league in terms of the way they set up. So whereas the likes of Liverpool, Van Dijk is absolutely a weapon when it comes to set pieces. Someone like a Quansah isn't really going to offer you that attacking potential. These boys will get you goals. I think we could probably sit here and safely say that Saliba and Gabriel between them could easily get 10 goals total. And that is really exciting prospect when we are looking at investing in an asset. Now, take a look at the starting 11. Similar to Liverpool, I don't think that Liverpool team is exactly what is going to roll out for game week 1. I personally think this is very close to what we're going to see in game week 1 for Arsenal. Let me know in the comment section if this is a little bit too zoomed out. It looks fine from my perspective, but of course I will try and zoom in a little bit more if I can. So what are the standouts right now? Well, let's not talk about Raya because of course he's always going to play for Arsenal between the sticks. Ben White, we know at 6.5 million, he probably is a little bit too expensive in the context of the other options, but if you want to go there, you know what you're getting. Guaranteed 90 minutes, most likely, and of course, attacking potential in this team. Saliba and Gabriel, there's been a lot of talk about it. This is my current thoughts. Saliba is going to give you absolute guaranteed minutes in this team. There is no chance of him getting rotated in this squad. In terms of Gabriel, there's a little bit of talk about Calafiori coming in and obviously taking the position of Gabriel. And when we take a look at the minutes played here, you can see that Gabriel on the 78th minute got replaced here with Kivior, and when Calafiori come off on the 64th minute, he ended up playing left back for Zinchenko. So Calafiori didn't necessarily come on and replace Gabriel, and I think that's a really good sign when we're looking at potentially investing in someone like Gabriel. I personally have spoke about it in previous videos. I think Arteta is trying to match Pep Guardiola this season. He's looking at going for those big players that can operate in wide areas. So what he done with Josko Vardial, Arteta's trying to replicate with Calafiori. Play at left back, so it means diagonals he can defend. He's obviously fantastic in both boxes if he needs to be, but what is big about him, he's progressive with the ball and he can invert into midfield or carry the ball in large distances. I think that is going to improve Martinelli as an option as well, it's worth noting. So I don't think Gabriel's minutes are actually that at risk in the opening weeks. And personally, what I do feel as well with Gabriel is that he does, even though both of them score, probably give that slightly more attacking potential. And with the way that the bonus points have changed this season, you get additional bonus points or baseline bonus points for getting fouls. And last season, Gabriel accumulated way more fouls against him than Saliba. So he's way more aggressive, means that when he nicks the ball, sometimes he gets fouled. That's going to be really good for bonus points this season. So at the time of recording, I'm pretty confident that Gabriel is locked into this Arsenal team. And if that is the case, I am willing to invest in Gabriel as opposed to Saliba if we were to go for an Arsenal asset. Moving into the midfield, are we going to see Partey deployed as a DM, which will open up Declan Rice as more of a box-to-box midfielder? That is definitely a potential. With them not landing the Real Sociedad midfielder yet in Marina, this is the midfield three that I wouldn't be surprised to see being rolled out in game week 1. Havertz playing 77 minutes up front is probably one of those sort of things where I think that is most likely to be the starting man in game week 1. I know Jesus has had a good preseason so far, but I think Arteta is going to fall back on exactly what he knows, and Havertz gives him the man that can run behind, come short, win duels. I think Havertz has locked down that position. The big one, of course, is Saka getting 77 minutes, Martinelli getting 78. I think we all know Saka is the one to go for if you can afford it, but I've spoken about it in previous videos, and I've been, let's just say, not received very well on my hype for Martinelli this season. I think if they do end up landing a left-sided centre mid, or they do deploy Partey as a CDM and Rice as a progressive left-sided centre mid, that is really going to enhance Martinelli as an option this season. And I do think if you're brave enough, you could go for a Martinelli punt at 7 million. But my views stand on Arsenal. I think Saka is just by far and away the best Arsenal asset on penalties, guaranteed minutes. We know his goal potential. Outside of that, Odegaard is a brilliant alternative if you want to go there. And the real punt is going to be Martinelli. If you said to me right now, Martinelli and Odegaard play the same amount of minutes in the opening 5 fixtures, I'm going to back Martinelli to outscore Odegaard over that period. Maybe controversial. So to conclude, I think Gabriel over Saliba, because I think Calafiori is going to play left back based on what we have seen. I think Havertz will be deployed as a number 9. Saka is the best Arsenal asset. Let me know your thoughts on Arsenal, guys. I will come to the questions and comment section in a bit. Just want to get through these games before we get to anything else. And I do think Declan Rice at 6.5 million is a consideration. If he does play as a left-sided centre mid, he's definitely going to have that goal-scoring potential in the box if he does arrive late. And of course, being on set-piece duty, he is always going to have that threat of getting the balls in the box for the likes of Saliba, Havertz, and of course, Gabriel. So he always has that available to him. Next up, we need to talk about Chelsea because, of course, we are struggling right now in pre-season. A draw, not many wins for us during this pre-season, it is to be said. But not a bad performance at all by Chelsea. I actually think it was one of the more promising performances that we have had. So taking a look at the lineups, whereas Arsenal's, I think in game week 1 is pretty much how I would expect them to roll their team out in game week 1. I personally don't think this is going to be the team for Chelsea come game week 1. So Sanchez between the sticks has just completely confused everybody. We have no idea who is going to be the starting goalkeeper now. Of course, new goalkeeper has been signed, played previous friendly, hasn't played this one. So do not touch the Chelsea goalkeeper. And to be honest with you, you're crazy if you try and touch the Chelsea defence, because we've conceded in every game and we're a little bit of a mess defensively. And Erling Haaland could absolutely destroy us, is worth noting. But it's in the attacking phases where I have been impressed with Chelsea. So let's just not even talk about defenders. They're not a consideration at all. Lavia has played a lot of minutes. Caicedo is building up fitness. So we don't really know what that midfield three is going to be. Today it was Lavia, Fernandes and Dewsbury Hall, but at times we have seen Lavia and Caicedo. We don't really have any confidence on who those midfielders are going to be, and realistically, I don't think any of those are going to be considerations for our team. Mudryk played again, didn't impress. I expect Raheem Sterling to play on the left wing in game week 1 with Madueke off the right. However, as you can see in the substitutions, we had Nkunku come off the bench on the 45th minute at halftime. I fully expect Nkunku to start in game week 1. I have absolutely no queries about him whatsoever. I am absolutely certain that Nkunku starts the opening 3 games, barring any injuries. I think he is just phenomenal at 6.5 million. You can see there as well, a certain Cole Palmer came on at halftime as well for Madueke. Played on the right-hand side. We've been speaking about where he's going to play in the Smareska team. Is he going to play in central areas? But the problem with that is, could it be much of a luxury midfield for Chelsea? So he came on the right-hand side with a bit of a slight tactical change, with Gusto overlapping Cole Palmer, whereas previously Madueke being much more of a 1v1 winger. We didn't really have that overlap from Gusto to really do it because it wasn't necessary with Madueke playing right wing. So Cole Palmer coming off the right, drifting further infield was actually good to see. Nothing incredible by Cole Palmer, but just so composed and a reminder of what a brilliant asset he is. But with that said, based on Chelsea right now and what I have seen, I still think Nkunku is the way to go. I don't expect Gui to start up top. I do think maybe Nicholas Jackson comes back in, or maybe we even see Cole Palmer deployed as a number 9. But Gui has been good, but he isn't an FPL option because of the rotation. So, conclusion on Chelsea. Don't touch them defensively. Do not touch any of their midfielders. Do not touch any of their wingers, because they will get rotated. So, realistically, the only thing I can see here is that the investment is going to come in either Nkunku or Cole Palmer. And my stance is still the same. I do believe Nkunku at 4 million cheaper is the route to go for in the opening game weeks, as opposed to Cole Palmer. And then after that, we can decide whether Cole Palmer is still the option that we saw last season. Of course, very dependent on penalties, for example, with Cole Palmer, but I just think Nkunku at 4 million offers the value. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I want to run a quick poll in the chat right now, just to see which one you prefer. Which would you have in game week 1? Really interested to know what your thoughts are, guys, because Palmer being 4 million more expensive is massive, realistically. So let me know in the chat there, guys. It's 150 odd in here. Be great to have a few votes on that one. Which one would you have in game week 1, Nkunku or Cole Palmer? Based on what we have seen in today's game, Cole Palmer, I fully expect to come back in for game week 1. And I can see a bit in the chat here. Joseph is saying Gakpo and Darwin both look leggy and off it. Yes, I totally agree. I think Arne Slot is going to be going with that 11 that we saw. If we put it up on the screens here, I fully expect this to be pretty much the team that we see. I don't think Tsimikas is a long-term option, but I do expect him to start in game week 1 just because Robertson is returning to fitness. I'll be surprised if it is that midfield 3 with McAllister, Szoboszlai and Gravenberch. We could definitely see an introduction of someone else in that midfield, but that front 3 is where I see it being. I don't think Darwin or Gakpo at all are fit enough to start for Arne Slot, and I think there will be bench players throughout the opening weeks. And Kwanzaa as centre-back, I do expect to play alongside Van Dijk. Paul saying Calafiori is looking fire to start at left-back. Yes, I do agree. But I will say this, if you're going to pay 6 million for Calafiori, I probably would just go for the safety of minutes of someone like a Saliba or a Gabriel, who of course proved their goal scoring credentials today with a goal apiece. Juan Daniel is saying, is Jota enough to cover Salah? The way I look at it is this. If you said to me right now over 38 game weeks, is Salah or Jota, if they were the same price, which would I go for? It would be Mo Salah, because I know exactly what I'm getting from him. But we need to remember, what we know of the Liverpool players is solely under Jurgen Klopp's reign. This is a different approach from Arne Slot. We don't know yet whether Mo Salah is going to be the talisman in this Liverpool team, or whether Arne Slot's structure maybe actually works better for someone like a Diogo Jota in this team. And I can't lie, if I'm seeing Diogo Jota being deployed as a number 9 against Ipswich, Brentford and Man United, I think that's too good a value to ignore at 7.5 million. And to be honest with you, if you're in a position right now where maybe you have Mo Salah and Anthony Gordon in your team, there is even an argument maybe to go for both Mo Salah and Diogo Jota to really attack those opening game weeks. And then you've got the best of both worlds in your team, really. And I think Arne Slot is doing a good job of implementing his system early doors. Whether that'll translate to results and goals in the Premier League is to be seen. And of course, we are taking that risk with Liverpool. Whereas Arsenal, Man City, we kind of know exactly what we are getting. And that security of that is sometimes what managers want to go for. Sell Trent to Quansah and get Jota. Again, a very difficult one to answer, because I expect Trent to absolutely dominate Quansah in the point score. And I think Trent offers exactly what Quansah can do, but just all that attacking potential alongside it. What you're asking there is get Jota, but who are you selling to enable Jota? If it's someone like a 4.5 million, then of course, I think that is a decent upgrade if you're getting Diogo Jota. But again, Quansah, you need to understand you're getting clean sheets. And I wouldn't even say clean sheets are guaranteed with their opening fixtures, especially if someone like an Ivan Toney stays at Brentford. I don't think that Brentford team is going to be particularly easy in those opening weeks. Perfect. Okay, let's come down to the last few preseason games before we get on to some drafts. And again, guys, if you're enjoying the stream, please do consider dropping a like. And let's be real, the Game Week 1 deadline is this Friday. So if you're not already, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. It's going to be daily content between now and then. Of course, team reveals, but going through Q&As, basically everything you need to know. So if you're not already, subscribe, check it out for a week. If it isn't for you, then it's absolutely not a problem if you want to unsubscribe to the channel. So next up, Man United versus Man City. Of course, the Community Shield game that happened on Saturday. We do need to take a look at this just to get a bit of an understanding of what we might be having from these two teams. So in terms of Man City, we did have the return of some of their, experienced players. We saw the return of Ruben Diaz. We saw Akanji come in. Rico Lewis come in at right back, which is really interesting. Maybe one to monitor as well. Midfield of Kovacic, McAtee and O'Reilly, very weak is worth noting. Doku coming back, which was a bit of a surprise. Haaland, and of course the man of the hour, Oscar Bob, with that assist and going off in the 90th minute. In terms of substitutes, Mateus Nunes came in, but I don't really expect him to add any competition to this team. Savio coming on the 63rd minute for Doku, so that is one to monitor as well. Of course, Jack Grealish is carrying a knock, so there is maybe more of an argument to go for Oscar Bob with less alternatives available to take minutes away from him. And of course, Bernardo Silva coming on in the 80th minute at the expense of McAtee. Nathan Ake and Kevin De Bruyne getting some minutes. But let's be real, first and foremost, no Phil Foden at all. So he is a complete avoid in FPL until we actually see some game time from him. De Bruyne literally getting hardly anything. Another player that I wouldn't be really considering for Game Week 1, even though he could be a brilliant differential. I need to actually see a bit of De Bruyne before even going there. So when we look at this Man City team, Vardiel playing at left back is good. It means that we could see that attacking fullback that we saw in last season. If he's playing centre back, I think it's 6 million. He actually is then below the Arsenal defenders, because I do value the Arsenal defence more. But Vardiel playing as a left back, progressing forward, that is actually quite an exciting prospect. The midfield you don't touch. So really it's Oscar Bob and Erling Haaland. Now going into Game Week 1, I can't sit here and say to you that Oscar Bob is definitely going to play, because there is definitely a chance of rotation. We can see Bernardo Silva go out the right. We can see Savio go in, Doku come in. But with the potential injury to Jack Grealish, I do think it enhances the game time of Oscar Bob. And let's be real, if we get 30 minutes of Oscar Bob against Chelsea and then maybe 90 minutes against Ipswich at home, that is a win-win situation. I think that's probably the more preference of managers rather than getting the full game against Chelsea and maybe limited minutes against Ipswich. So it is a lottery, but if you're in a position right now and maybe you're looking at it thinking, I can afford to have a 5 million and not really care if he gets minutes or not, I think Oscar Bob is a really, really appealing player. And Erling Haaland, obviously a disappointing game, wasn't really in it. But we've seen this before in games, and I don't read too much into it because I know Pep Guardiola feeds everything through him. And I don't read too much into this. Similar to Mo Salah, as I spoke about, I don't read too much into the fact that Mo Salah blanked today. It's all about game time in game week 1. And I think both of those are going to get considerable game time. But I do think Erling Haaland, with that Ipswich game at home in game week 2, it's just such a tough fixture not to have a piece of that attack. And I do not think Oscar Bob can cover it. So let me know your thoughts in the comments regarding Man City. I'll be really interested to know what direction you are going in. I can see some comments here. I can see Johnny saying, do I think Solanke will start in game week 1 for Spurs? Yes, I do think that is the case. The quotes that have been coming out from Ange, with Richarlison not really available, Kulusevski's doing a great job in the number 9, but personally, I could see Solanke coming straight in. His quotes have just been very, very promising in the fact that he will actually start for them. And I think the way that he's chatting is they buy players because they are suited for the system. He's had a full pre-season at Bournemouth, so he's raring to go. It's not like he needs to build up match fitness like the likes of Kevin De Bruyne and a Phil Foden. So I see no reason whatsoever for him. Tom's saying he's going for KDB. I don't mind that, but you do need to note at 9.5 million, you are taking a minutes risk for somebody who's played so little during pre-season. So you know the risk with it, but I don't mind it as a differential if you want to go there. But do I think he can cover Erling Haaland? The answer is no. And I think that's why I'm leaning more towards Erling Haaland right now. At Liverpool, we are actually seeing a viable alternative in the shape of Diogo Jota. In this Man City team right now, with uncertainties on Kevin De Bruyne and Foden, I think it just naturally defaults to Erling Haaland as our big premium in the team. Now, in terms of Man United, because this is a really interesting one, they put in a good performance, still missing a couple of key players here and there. But when we look at this team, is it going to be the game week 1 team? Hopefully not with Johnny Evans, it's worth noting. But Ahmad getting 60 minutes was pretty impressive, it's worth noting. Casemiro putting a good shift. Mainu isn't an FPL option, as we know. Mason Mount is not at all an option. Rashford, even though he did miss some sitters, was getting into some really promising positions. Now, it's going to take a very, very brave manager to go for someone like a Marcus Rashford. And to be honest with you, I think in the early game weeks, we actually want to see something from these players before actually investing in them. And I don't think you need to be the first manager in Marcus Rashford. I think we just let it breathe. We let him have a few game weeks. If he scores a brace against Fulham and maybe has a great few fixtures, then we can look to invest in him. But let's be real, I think the ownership of Rashford is going to be pretty low. And I just don't really think going with him in the early doors is worth the risk. You might get some early points, but I just don't think it's worth it. And at 8.5 million, Bruno Fernandes played as the false 9. And when we look at the substitutions that were made, as you can see, there was no introduction to the likes of Kirksey. As we know already, Højlund is going to be out for 6 weeks. So we could see this again with Bruno Fernandes playing as a false 9 or a traditional 9, however you want to look at it, with rotations in the team. Personally, I don't love it. I much prefer Bruno Fernandes playing in the 10, influencing the game completely. But 8.5 million, playing as a false 9 against Fulham at home is not a bad situation at all. And I do think it is going to maybe raise the ownership of him quite a bit. Garnacho coming on in the 60th minute is also going to tempt some managers out there. Personally, I think Garnacho could play. When we look at this team here, we might see a situation where Ahmad has locked down that right-hand wing spot. Mount is the one that is obviously going to come out this team. Maybe we just see him play Ahmad, Garnacho, Rashford and Fernandes, and they are just chopping and changing as a front four. Definitely some uncertainties right now and no guarantees of what that team will be. But if you're going to go there, I do think Ahmad is doing enough to justify starting, but you know you're taking a risk with him, similar to that of Oscar Bob. And Bruno Fernandes at 8.5 is great, but maybe you look at someone like an Odegaard at 8.5 and say to yourself, I know exactly what I'm getting with Odegaard, whereas Bruno Fernandes is a little bit of a tough one to pin down whether he's playing as a 9 or an 8. So we need to lock that down. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, guys. I'll be super interested to know. In terms of penalties for Man United, of course, it will be Bruno Fernandes. So, final game I just want to quickly touch on. No starting lineup here on FootMob. I do apologise, but the reason why I've got this up, the return of João Pedro scoring a good goal for them against Villarreal, 5.5 million. He is a fantastic option if we do get guaranteed game time, but we will come on to him later. The fixtures for Brighton are not ideal. Opening game away against Everton is good, but after that, slightly tricky games. Welbeck with the 2 goals, but I don't think anyone's going there. And Minter getting another goal on the 69th minute. This guy has been incredible during pre-season. I think he's locked down already that right wing spot for Brighton. Again, do you want to go there at 5.5 million with the opening fixtures for Brighton? The one thing I will say is we're seeing goals scored by Brighton. I think the manager's done a great job, similar to Arne Slot, of implementing his style of football early doors. I think he's done a great job of that. And I do think Brighton, even though the fixtures are difficult, can still offer value this season. If we look at the fixtures for them coming up, Everton away, followed by Man United at home, Arsenal away is not ideal. But game week 4 against Ipswich, game week 5 against Nottingham Forest is a really nice time to maybe have a differential like a João Pedro or a Minter. So what I'm trying to say is this. If you're going to bring a Brighton asset in, I actually don't mind it. I think Minter and João Pedro are the ways to go if you want to go there. Both 5.5 million. I think both probably have equally slightly ropey game time, but I'd play them in game week 1, bench them in 2 and 3 most likely, knowing you have them for 4 and 5. But this also plays for those that are going for wildcard in game week 4. You can completely avoid them in the opening 3 game weeks. Assess them, see how they've gotten on, and then when you wildcard in game week 4, maybe then there's a time to maybe say to yourself, I know exactly which option is worth investing in. Obviously, Chelsea away and Tottenham at home isn't ideal, but I think those 2 fixtures, Ipswich and Nottingham Forest, are just absolutely plumb if we do identify which player we want to go for. So, again, guys, let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Just going to put a quick poll up just to see which one you'd prefer having. I'll be really interested to see here. Which one would you own? Minter or João Pedro? And of course, we do need to note, give me a second. Of course, Welbeck is not an option. I do apologise. I'm not investing in bloody Welbeck. But when we look at it here, one thing I haven't got the answer to, and I will need to check this for you guys, is when Welbeck took the penalty, was João Pedro on the pitch? I think the answer is no. So that didn't really give us an answer to that problem. But we will check that out for you. Don't worry. I see FPL Bateman, Marcus. Hope you're doing well, mate. Minter is cemented into my game week 1 team. We will be there. I do love it. And the thing about it sometimes as well is Brighton are scoring goals. Everton away isn't horrific. And of course, when we look at the other fixtures for Brighton, it's not like they can't score goals in it. Minter, a bit of an unknown player coming into this league. I do like it if you are brave enough to go there. I'm a little bit more boring. I probably won't go there. But if he goes off early, you know you're getting a massive price hike. And by the time those that wildcard in game week 4 are looking to bring in Minter, he could already be 6 million by the time they get there if he does really go off. So I'll be super interested to know. Thank you, Marcus, saying that Pedro went off at halftime. So again, doesn't really answer our penalty queries that we do have. Senan saying, should I avoid Kulusevski? Look, Solanke coming in, expected to start. I haven't got the game up on here. Let me try and get up for you a minute. Give me 2 seconds, guys. I apologise. Just trying to get the Spurs game up. Because, of course, Kulusevski had a brilliant game, scoring 2 goals. This one here. So, as we know, Kulusevski scored 2 goals. However, Solanke wasn't in the squad. This is how they lined up. Now, quite interested to see the team. Of course, missing Van de Ven, missing Romero. So, we should see a more defensive Spurs team come game week 1, if there is such a thing. Midfield 2, Assar and Basuma. We're going to see something like that for game week 1. Kulusevski, Maddison, Johnson and Son. Now, if we expect Solanke to come into that team, I think the casualty will be Brennan Johnson. From what I've heard, he hasn't been fantastic in pre-season. So I would probably expect to see Maddison in the 10, Son off the left, Kulusevski off the right, and Solanke down the middle. So Kulusevski's done really well, but that's been as a number 9. Would I go for Kulusevski now that Solanke's come in? Probably not. I think there's now enough uncertainty on Kulusevski to say to ourselves, maybe we just avoid, go for Son or Solanke, and then we can reassess later on in the opening game weeks whether Kulusevski still holds his value. It's a real shame Solanke got signed in a way, because Kulusevski could have been a brilliant, almost game breaker in this system. And I will also flag that if Solanke doesn't hit the ground running and Kulusevski's doing a job as a false 9, maybe we see Kulusevski get game time off Solanke. It's definitely something we need to not rule out this week. Okay, brilliant. JKX Bo as well, saying that Welbeck took the penalty while João Pedro was off the pitch. That clarifies that there. So Spurs, Solanke, Son, I think are brilliant investments. I'll be a little bit cautious about Maddison, Kulusevski. Pedro Porro paying only a half. A lot of people are investing in Pedro Porro. I like it for the opening 2. Do not love it long term at all. So, and it's a good point there from Marcus saying that Ange said that Kulusevski wouldn't play up front with the introduction of Solanke. So, of course, that probably does rule out Kulusevski as an FPL option right now. So, next up, what I want to do, guys, is come into some drafts. Now, first and foremost, if you haven't got this sorted, you're playing the game wrong. This is the official Fantasy Premier League site like everybody has. But what you can see here on the top bar, like everyone else, I've got home, pick team, transfers. But what you won't have is a planner section and a price changes section. Now, this is all part of the Fantasy Football Fix free Google Chrome extension. If you go on Google Chrome and type in FPL Plus, it will say Buy Fantasy Football Fix. Their Google Chrome extension, which is totally free, integrates with the official site. So whereas you're going on to third-party planners out and about, this literally implements it into the official site. It's an absolute joke, completely underrated. Not many people use it what they should be doing. And for me, if I can have everything under one roof, why would I not do that, honestly? So this is what I absolutely love about it. You can build up to 5 drafts. You can flick through 5 game weeks, kind of everything you want. So first and foremost, and again, I just need to state this isn't my team. And also, this isn't exactly what you should go for. I want to put these players in as price points, and we can discuss which players will be best in these positions. So what we're going to do right now is look at a Haaland and Salah draft. We're then going to look at a just Haaland draft, and we're going to look at a just Salah draft, okay? And what we're going to get an understanding of, what do you gain and what do you lose out between each draft? Because like I said, I can't sit here and say to you, if you go for Haaland and Salah, this is the exact team that you can go for. Because some people think defenders are the way to go. Others think the midfielders is where we need to invest. So I would love a discussion in the chat right now about what direction you would take these teams. So first thing you can see on your screens right now is a Haaland and Salah draft. Now, of course, if you're spending over a quarter of the budget on 2 players, you've got to make sacrifices in the team. We just know that is going to be the case. So right now, I don't think you can go for a power front 3. So I think Haaland, Isak and Muniz, or if you want to come down to a João Pedro, that is absolutely viable for this team. I don't love going for just a front 2 because I think there are great forwards in the game. But if you had to, you could drop that Muniz all the way down to a 4.5 million and free up 1.5 to invest in the midfielders. In terms of the midfielders, I found it very difficult to have Haaland, Salah and an 8.5 million midfielder or a 10 million like a Saka. I think the balance really does get thrown off then. You truly would have to go for a 4.5 million forward and then invest that money into someone like an Eze to upgrade to that price point. And even then it is very, very difficult. So looking at the team from top to bottom, if you're going for this strategy, you have to go for a 4.5 million goalkeeper. There's just no questions about it. And I do think Henderson is the best pick. I do have a little bit of a eye on a West Ham goalkeeper in Areola, but the fixtures are just a little bit ropey, it's worth noting, but they're investing very well. Vardiel, Konsa, Hall with 2 4 million defenders. I think that's probably how you need to structure the defence, but which 6 million you go for, which 4.5s is dependent on you. While I've seen Vardiel play as a left back, I just have a slight more temptation to go there. But if I'm looking at guaranteed clean sheets, then Arsenal probably is the route to go for in those opening 3 fixtures. In terms of the midfield, you can get in a 7.5, a 7, a 6.5 and a 5. And I do think that gives you some good coverage. I think Eze, with the transfer rumours slowly quieting, I think he's the best 7 million. Rashford and Martinelli could be great value, but I think we know exactly what we're getting with Eze. But of course, with no Mateta, no Elise, could Crystal Palace generally be slightly weakened? We'll see that in the opening few weeks. And Gordon, still rumours, but if he does play at home against Southampton, that's just incredible value at 7.5 million. And when we look at the 5 million options, as we've spoken about, I think if we're going for a team like this, realistically with Munez's fixtures beyond game week 1, you probably are going to continue to play a front 3 like this. So I think Ahmad for the first game is actually a really good investment. I prefer it to Oscar Bobbs in game week 1. And then after that, you're most likely going to play Nkunku in a 3-4-3. If you were to go for someone like an Oscar Bobb in this team, I think you'd have a bit of a headache come game week 2, because when we look at the team in game week 2 here, Ahmad will be away against Brighton, but Nkunku will be away against Wolves, who are looking a little bit poor in pre-season. So Nkunku would likely come in for our 5 million midfielder. And straight away you look at this team and think, it's looking pretty decent. Harwood Bellis will probably come in for Konsa. Team looks pretty strong. If that Ahmad player was Oscar Bobb and he was at home against Ipswich, you just have to play him. And then I look at the rest of this team and think to myself, who would I bench out of them? I'm not benching Gordon at any time. I can't bench Nkunku if I'm paying 6.5 for him and not playing him away against Wolves. And none of those front 3 are going to get benched at all. So that's why I'm slightly leaning towards Ahmad as an option, because you only really want him for game week 1. And I think with someone like Oscar Bobb and Ahmad, beyond game week 3, then they start to be a rotation risk with the return of all of those premium assets, in particular in that Man City team. So just want to give you a bit of an update on what a Haaland and Mo Salah team would look like based on the information that we do see in this pre-season. So I'll just come back to it in game week 1 before we move into a Mo Salah team. Just want to see your stuff in the chat, guys, to see what you are saying. I'll be really interested to know. I think that's actually defaulted. I do apologise. There we go. Okay. Sorry, guys. If you're living in the UK right now, it's about 28 degrees. It is boiling. Keith, good morning from Australia. Love the content. Thank you very much, Keith. Anders is saying, can you take a punt at a no Haaland or Salah draft? Okay, I promise you at the end of this stream, we will do a final draft and we'll build it on stream of no Haaland and no Salah, but I'm going to need your help because I haven't built one before because I'm too scared to not have one. Jota or Eze, I am slightly more tempted by Diogo Jota right now and what I am seeing. I don't know exactly what I am getting with Eze, in particular with the absence of Elise and Mateta. Hudson-Odoi or Minter, well, Hudson-Odoi was benched in their most recent friendly, so based on that, even though the Forest fixtures are way better, I actually think I would be more inclined to go to Minter or someone like a Smith Rowe. Animations, with that draft, just downgrade Ahmad to Winks and get a 4.5 on the bench for the rotation will be good for the defender. Yep, that's fine. I'm more triple Arsenal defence and then wildcard in game week 4. Marcus, absolutely love that. Game week 2, not ideal against Villa, but worth noting Villa have been quite ropey in pre-season. Downgrading Nkunku and upgrade Ahmad to get 2 5.5 million midfielders. I don't mind that, but I do think at 6.5 million, there are so many great options available that I almost want to have a player at that price point already, knowing that I can do an easy sideways move to them. What is this website? This is the official website. What I have used is the Fantasy Football Fix Google Chrome extension. So if you use Google Chrome as your default browser, you can download their free extension, which is called FPL Plus by Fantasy Football Fix. All you have to do is have a Fantasy Football Fix account. You don't need to pay for it. It's totally free to sign up. And what it does is it integrates the website with the official site, and you get the planner tab and the price changes tab, which is of course is going to be massive as the season kicks off in those opening game weeks. And basically it's all built in the website then. It's absolutely incredible. So do check it out. It is such an underrated tool. I think because you have to have a Fantasy Football Fix account, it scares a lot of people off, but it's totally free to create one. And with the free Fantasy Football Fix app, you get the price changes part of that, which I think is just a no-brainer because you just go on the app or on the website once you downloaded the free extension and you can check out when the price changes are going to happen, and they're so accurate, it's crazy. So yeah, make sure you check it out. Joel, Arsenal are going to hurt a lot of people without going for them, and I totally agree. And that's why I need to show you this next draft. With this team here, what I'm trying to say is this. I think it's incredibly hard to put an Arsenal player in if you go for Mo Salah and Erling Haaland. I think the only way you can get one in is if, for example, you take out Anthony Gordon. I cannot see a world where you can also afford Bukayo Saka. You bring in someone like Martin Odegaard. So let's bring in Odegaard here. We need to find 0.5 million. Realistically, we're going to take that out of Ahmad. That's going to come down to a Harry Winks. And then we are going to be starting in Nkunku. The problem with that, the bench is disgusting. It is so weak. And I think there's some rotation risk in this team. Let me know, obviously, if I missed an obvious one there. That's a way of getting an Arsenal player in. And it actually doesn't look too bad. It's just that bench is horrible if any injuries do arise. So it is pretty thin, this squad. But you can get an Arsenal player in. So next up, draft 2. This is going to be the Erling Haaland draft. And once again, I am sitting here telling you that this isn't the exact team that you have to build if you go for Erling Haaland. This is just an example of what you can do. And I would really love to hear your thoughts in the chat on what you would do with this team. So what are the pros of going without Mo Salah and obviously bringing in just one premium in the shape of Erling Haaland? Well, of course, you've made a saving. You can come down to Diogo Jota if you feel like he is a better alternative to Mo Salah. That's going to free you up 5 million to invest elsewhere in the squad. So once again, we can go for an Arsenal asset at 10 million in the shape of Bukayo Saka, which is fantastic. We can put some money into that defence, which may be looking a bit weaker previously. So we could go for a combination of Vardial, Pedro Porro and Munoz with 2 4 million defenders. But again, this isn't completely strict on this. What we could do if you're really against the Spurs defence, for example, is we could take Pedro Porro out, put in Gabriel. Sorry, I've put it on midfielders. We've then got coverage in the defence, and then we can drop down Muniz to any of the 4 million options if we want to go there. So let's just put in Konsa for now. Actually, no, let's put in Kwanzaa because he's been the talk of the town right now. And we could look something like this all of a sudden, which probably is a little bit stronger. Again, we have got a 5 million midfielder. That is because we've upgraded one of the forwards to a Dominic Solanke, who of course still is in the Bournemouth top, but he is now a Spurs player. And he has got Leicester away, who have been one of the worst teams in pre-season, and then Everton in game week 2. So fantastic fixtures for Solanke. If you were going for this sort of structure, similar to the other one, you don't really have to worry about rotating formations because you're going to be sticking with a front three week in, week out. There's no world where you're benching Solanke, Isak or Erling Haaland. So in the first week, you can go for a 3-4-3. In the second week, you're likely going to take Ahmad out and you're going to bring in Nkunku for game week 2. And the team looks pretty strong in those game weeks. Just to give you an example, in game week 2, we can look something like this. I do apologise. The fixtures are now showing. So we could bring in Nkunku in for Ahmad. And the team would look something like this. Again, very, very strong. And again, I'm not sitting here telling you have to put this particular team out. It can look however you want it to. But I think the structure here is more of my preference than what you saw previously. I think going for Haaland and Mo Salah is very difficult. You have to make a lot of sacrifices in your team. And for me, I do feel like this is a better balanced squad if you're of the opinion of myself that Diogo Jota can match Mo Salah in those opening game weeks. And we need to remember, because we can have up to 5 free transfers, we can wildcard in game week 4, continue rolling transfers and just give ourselves maybe a mini wildcard in game week 8. So that's the thing that I really do like. If you get it wrong with Diogo Jota in the early weeks, you can just wildcard him out and bring in Mo Salah if you've made an epic mistake. So that is something you need to remember. If you make a mistake, it isn't a problem. Vuk is saying that the bench is weak, and I would agree with that sentiment. Of course, if you are in... Solanke isn't locked in. Let's be real. So Solanke could easily come out of this team. We could go to someone like a Muniz, who is absolutely fine as an option for our teams. And straight away, we freed up 1.5 million. So if we're worried about the bench, we can upgrade any of these defenders. Let's say Barco, in case they do buy a left back, which they are rumoured to do so. We can bring in someone like a Concert if you want to. And straight away, we still got 1 million in the bank available to invest elsewhere in the squad, which is quite exciting. So what we could do is, let's say, for example, take out Henderson, put in a Raya here. And then if you wanted to, you could then take out Gabriel, or you could double up on the Arsenal. You could come down to a Pedro Porro. You have so much more flexibility with going for just one premium in your squad. So to give you a bit of a comparison, if you go Haaland and Salah, you're basically making big downgrades in your midfield, and you can't get yourself to someone like a Solanke. I just think the option you have to go for is a João Pedro or a Muniz. If you go for Haaland, no Salah, I think you have to be confident that Diogo Jota is going to be able to match Mo Salah in those opening game weeks. But what you can do is bring in somebody like a Bukayo Saka, who is brilliant at 10 million, and it gets you a piece of those Arsenal fixtures. And also you can put a bit more money in that defence, which I think is quite important in the opening weeks. So I can see Milo HD is saying, where's Salah? This on your screens right now is a no Mo Salah draft. Lastly, let's put up an example of a draft that just has Mo Salah and no Erling Haaland. So let's bring this up for you now. And once again, I need to state there are many ways that you can change this team up. So for example, I've built this team with 0.5 million in the bank. So straight away, I'm going to get rid of Barco. And I'm just going to put in, Quansah, for example. Just 4.5. It's good to have him in. And you could even start him over Vardial if you wanted to. Okay. So this is how the Mo Salah team looks with no Erling Haaland. So of course, without I'll tell you what, one thing I need to do. Sorry. Okay, so what's quite interesting here actually, while building this team, is that there's too much money in the defence first and foremost. So we need to sacrifice Gabriel. Sorry, I'm just making a few changes here because I do firmly believe if you're going without Erling Haaland, you almost certainly have to bring in a Trent. You just have to. So let's bring in Quansah. And let's just go Quansah and Concert because they sound cool together. So your team could look something like this. And I think this is really strong. Yeah. So if you go for just Mo Salah and no Erling Haaland, straight away you are freeing up 6 million, which is absolutely massive. And what I like about this team, first and foremost, is that we've got double Liverpool defence. I do apologise, but let's just leave it there for now. So what I like about this team, we can get the big gun, like a Trent Alexander-Arnold in our teams. We can afford another premium in the shape of Gvardiol, which is in the team there. And we can have two 4.5 million defenders and a 4 million. So the defence is stacked, it's worth noting. In terms of the midfield, we can afford both Mo Salah and a 10 million option. So we can get the price point of that and a Saka, which is huge for those opening fixtures. We can also afford someone like an Eze at 7 and Nkunku at 6.5 and a piece of that 5.5 million midfield, whether it be Jacob Murphy, whether it be Smith Rowe. You don't have any real weakness in this team because we've also got a really powerful front three in the shape of Dominic Solanke, Alexander Isak and Kai Havertz. Now you can definitely squeeze Watkins in, but I think he's more of an option for game week 3 and 4. I don't think you necessarily need him in for game week 1. So when you look at this team here, I'll be really interested to know, what are you leaning towards? Is it a Haaland draft? Is it a Mo Salah draft? I think they definitely have their pros and cons. I think it comes down to whether you believe Diogo Jota can match Erling Haaland. Sorry, let me repeat that. If Diogo Jota can match Mo Salah. If the answer is yes, then I do think going without Mo Salah is the way to go and keeping Haaland in your team. The big problem that I have with going for no Erling Haaland is I don't see any realistic alternative in that attacking 8 that you can confidently invest in. I think realistically, you're taking a punt on Oscar Bob, which is absolutely fine. But if I said to you right now, you could downgrade Salah to Diogo Jota, or you can downgrade Haaland to Oscar Bob. I think that answers itself right now in that you'd rather downgrade yourself to a Diogo Jota and keep Erling Haaland in your team. So for that reason, I personally am leaning towards going without Mo Salah. That isn't because he blanked today. That's been my thought process for quite a while. And using Diogo Jota as my Liverpool coverage. Can he absolutely match Mo Salah? I think the answer is no. But can he get close at 5 million cheaper? I think the answer is probably yes. And that's why right now I personally am leaning towards this particular draft rather than a Mo Salah draft. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I think it's really important to have a little bit of bounce back. We are only going for another 5 minutes, it's worth noting. Finally, a lot of you crazy guys have been on about going for a no Haaland or Salah draft. So we got to build that from scratch right now. Okay, so no Erling Haaland, no Mo Salah. Is this actually viable? So straight away, you're saving 6 million on Haaland because the next most expensive is a 9 million. Okay, that's a bit weird. Ignore that. Basically, that's absolutely threw me. Basically, what I'm trying to say is this. We need to build a team that doesn't have Haaland or Salah. Going without Haaland automatically saves you 6 million. And of course, going without Salah saves you automatically 2 million because Cole Palmer is the next most expensive. So straight away, you're saving 8 million in this team. So I'll be really interested to see what we build. So let's just put in the obvious ones right now. So Isak's obviously going to be in this team. Bukayo Saka is obviously going to be in this team. Diogo Jota, I think, has to be in this team because you need a piece of that Liverpool team. Shay SP saying, can someone explain to me why Haaland is so hyped? Why is he so hyped? Well, Chelsea away, who have been conceding a bag full of goals in the opening weeks in pre-season. Ipswich at home in game week 2. He's scored an average of 30 goals over the last 2 seasons. And he's the only Man City attacker that we can right now confidently say plays 90 minutes in every single game in the opening 5 game weeks due to the limited minutes of De Bruyne and Foden. Whereas at Liverpool, I think Diogo Jota actually does pose as an alternative to Mo Salah right now. And that's why I think Haaland is rightly so being hyped up. So, with this team, let's get back to it. Let's be real. If you're going to go without the big guns, you need the next best big guns. So, you got to have Trent. Don't know where Saka's disappeared to. We're going to put him back in now. Isak has to be in there. Let's just put Raya in because he is the cheapest of the bunch in that Arsenal defence because end of the day, we can afford him. Let's go for Vardial because I just think we can afford him. And Harris, yes, we are fully expecting Kwanzaa to be a starter in game week 1 based on what we've seen from Arne Slot in pre-season, 100%. Okay, let's keep building this team. I'm just going to see what I can afford with some rogue picks, and then we can basically go from there. So Pedro Porro, let's just put him in. Why is he always taking... Okay, they're stealing players from me, so I need to try and put these players in. Saka, let's put him in. I don't know why they're taking players out, so we'll just try and build a team a minute. Let's just put Nkunku in for now. Let's put in... I don't know why he didn't go in then. Let's put in Solanke. Let's put in Isak. Who else needs to be in this team, guys? Vardial, as we've spoken about. We need to put in what midfielders need to come into this team. Realistically, I want Son. If I'm going to go there, I need a bit of... Saka keeps going out. I don't know why. Sorry, guys. I'm restarting. We will get there. So having a funny 2 minutes. Trent. Sorry, guys, we're building, if you just joined in, we are building a No Haaland, No Salah draft quickly before we end the stream, just to get an idea. So get some names in the chat, guys. Let me know. Son, he's in. What would you build, guys? Please let me know. Son, I'm seeing Gordon, I'm seeing Oscar Bob. Let's put Gordon in for now. So look, the midfield is already locked in, guys. Saka, Nkunku, Son, Jota, and Gordon. Let me know if there's someone missing. Jota, Son, Watkins. Watkins is being mentioned. Maybe we go for Watkins rather than Kai Havertz. Guys, I need some defenders. Which defenders need to be in this team? We've currently got Raya. Let's just put in. I mean, we haven't got loads of money left. It's worth noting. Let's put in Fabianski in goal. Let's put in. We need to put in a 4 million regardless. So let's put in Harwood Bellis. Okay, so we've got 1.5 million left. Not much money, it's worth noting. So we need to make some downgrades somewhere. Okay, so I like the idea of Oscar Bob, but who would he come in for in this team? So I think realistically we need to sacrifice probably Gordon of the lot that I'm seeing right now. Palmer's too much. I probably do agree. Munoz, yes, I do like him. Maybe we downgrade Pedro Porro to Munoz just to free up some funds. We got Raya in goal, so we have a little bit of coverage there. Take out Watkins. I'll tell you what, let's take out Watkins. Let's really lean heavily on this Arsenal attack. We got 3 million. We need to free up some funds still. Watkins is out, guys. Let me know. Let me know who we need to free up to get some cash in here. Maybe we take out Raya in goal. Son to Bob, that is the biggest downgrade ever. But I do agree, maybe Son in this team doesn't make a lot of sense now that we got Solanke. So maybe we take Son out because we got Solanke in this team. But it does give us a bit of money to invest elsewhere. So let's say we go for... Let's go for the big dog. Actually, I can't even afford Palmer. Tell you what, let's do this. $3.5. We still need to save some money, guys. What do you think on this team right now? Nkunku's gone down to a Smith Rowe. Maybe we go down all the way to Bob. Oscar Bob. 4 million in the bank. Gordon to Eze, people are saying. That would free up some funds. 4.5. Let's just put anyone in right now. Let's put a Concert. Do you agree with this? What's really important is that if you're going to go without Mo Salah and Haaland, you need to make sure that your bench is strong. You just need to make sure you are really pumping that money into the best available options. So I think this is a pretty decent team. Let me know, put yes or no, what your thoughts on this team. Just basically, if you agree with this team, put yes. If you don't agree, put no and a slight change that you would make with this team. Be interested to know if you want to make any changes. I personally think we got the coverage here. We got Arsenal coverage in Raya. We got Trent. We got Vardy out. We got Munoz as a bit of an attacking Palace option. We got the backup of Concert to rotate. And we got the 4 million defender. We got 10.5 at Palmer. We got 10 million at Saka. We got the Eze coverage. We got the Liverpool coverage with Diogo Jota. And we got Oscar Bob as a bit of a fun pick. And we got the front three in Solanke, Havertz and Isak. If we wanted to free up funds, what we could do is downgrade Palmer all the way to Nkunku, give us 4 million that we could pump elsewhere in the team. FPL Chicken saying, would I pick no? We'll get it. Really good points. Yes. Salah or Son, guys. Shay, I'll rewind the video and maybe check out some of the big talking points we had in this video. Palmer to Bruno, Bob to Nkunku, Concert to Robinson. Don't mind that. Let's see how that looks. Bob to Nkunku. I'll keep the defender how it is just because it's kind of is what it is. But again, strong team again. No, I don't like Havertz. I think Havertz is good. Okay. So, to conclude, I am not going without Haaland and Mo Salah. I'm just going to put it out there. I'm not brave enough to not have one of those in my team. So the plan right now, and I'm going to say this, I don't know exactly what my team is going to be, but I'm going to be dropping my team selection video tomorrow. It's not my final one, but it is my latest team selection. I've put thought behind it. I'm going to deep dive into my wildcard plans as well, because I do think the wildcard horizon is a very, very important point when we are looking at what team to build for game week 1. So if you're not already, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. We're currently 50 subscribers short of 16k. We're not going to get there on this stream, but if you're watching it right now and you're not subscribed, if you want to help a brother out, it'd be amazing if you could subscribe to the channel. And if you're watching this back on a general video and you somehow made it to this point, which is like an hour odd on, first and foremost, thank you, congratulations. Secondly, maybe drop a subscription just to see if we can get to that 16k before the game week 1 deadline. That is the hope before Friday. So we're going to wrap it up there, guys. I will be going with Haaland or Salah. I'm pretty confident I won't be going for both, it's worth noting. So make sure you stick around for tomorrow morning's video, where we'll be deep diving into my exact team. Things are going to change, but that's the whole point of pre-season. Marcus, really appreciate you tuning in, mate. Gunner, I just don't like Havertz plus Saka. That is fair enough. And Animation saying hit the sub and like people, let's get fan to 16k, which is a massive appreciation. Thank you so much, mate. So I think we're going to wrap it up there, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will see you in tomorrow's video. Still loads of pre-season content coming out. If you have any questions, put them in the comment section of this video. I'll be sure to answer them. Have an amazing evening wherever you are in the world. Take care, and I will see you tomorrow morning, guys. Cheers, guys.